One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff and we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me.
Am I the asshole for pouring my drink on someone who threw hers in my face first? I went out clubbing last night with my friends. There were 7 of us, 3 guys including me and 4 girls. My girlfriend Hannah was meant to come too, but she was feeling ill. I offered to stay in with her, but she insisted I go out and have a good time. At the club, my friends got talking to a group of women who apparently worked in finance. They were here for some kind of conference and were checking out the local places in their spare time. One of them, Lauren, started trying to chat to me and asked for my number. She was pretty, but I was not interested as I have a girlfriend. I told her this, but she then started asking for pics of Hannah. I showed her and she said that I could do so much better than that. I was very annoyed and told her to leave me alone. Later on, me and my friends were dancing and Lauren and her group came up to us and she started trying to dance with me. I gave her the brush off once again and moved away from her and she gave me a dirty look. A while later, she came back and by that point, she was very drunk. She smirked at me and threw her drink in my face. I was absolutely fuming and in response, I poured my beer on her head. She started crying and ran to the bouncer who got us all kicked out.
My boyfriend showed up to my house randomly one day. I had just woken up and I got ready so fast in my room. Mom told him that he could wait in the living room. She ended up jumping in the shower. I went outside to the living room and we ended up going to his house. And I was there. My mom called me. She said that there was $350 on the table and that one $50 bill was missing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but I had to find out the truth. So I told him to take me to Jack in the Box. We went through the drive-thru. I was so mad, but I had to keep it together. I knew that he only paid with 20s. He never paid with 50s. I ordered my food and I was waiting to see what bill he pulled out. And guess what, guys? It was a $50 bill. Then I looked at him and told him, don't pay with my mom's money. I grabbed my purse, pulled out a 20, and told him, pay with my money. His eyes just popped open. He knew he got caught.
Would I be the asshole if I got my younger sister's college scholarship revoked? I am 21 and have been an avid writer my entire life. I have written 3 full-length novels that I'm almost perpetually reworking and a book of short stories all set within the same universe. I've been working on this universe and the characters within it since I was 13 and it is all very personal to me. This week, I found out that my younger sister, who is 17, won a massive scholarship by submitting one of my short stories. I would have been upset regardless of which story she'd taken, but she happened to pick one based around my experience feeling othered because of my autism. My sister is not autistic and has actually bullied me in the past for my autistic traits, and so the fact that this was the story she picked to steal from me almost feels like an attack. In addition to submitting the story, she also had to write about what inspired her to write the piece, and even thinking about what she must have made up makes my blood boil. My parents are currently struggling for money, and this scholarship would pay for almost her entire first year. Both my parents know what my little sister did, and they have both asked me to just let it slide because my sister having this scholarship is helping out our family. I've been 100% financially independent from my parents since the day I graduated college. I have a sister who is about a decade older than me, and my parents promised each of us a set amount of money towards our weddings. My sister used this money to have a big, beautiful wedding, and now it's my turn to get married. But my parents have admitted that they gave away the money they had saved for my wedding to my sister. My sister, a mother of 1, had a series of health problems and had to freeze her eggs if she ever wanted to have another child. She didn't have the money and only had a few weeks before her hysterectomy, so she asked my parents for the $13,000, which they obviously gave her. I know I sound selfish for prioritizing my wedding over her fertility, but she was 36 when she got the diagnosis. There was no telling how long it would take for her health to recover, and it would be years before they could even afford supporting another infant. I knew she would never have the means to use those eggs before she was 40, and she has made it very clear that she wouldn't want to have an infant at that age. In my opinion, she acted in panic and wanted a safety net that she knew she would never use. But I'm still upset that now I won't be able to have much of a wedding because I've been counting on the funds my parents had promised. I'm not upset that they gave it to her, but I am upset that they gave it to her knowing nothing would come of it. They traded my wedding day for her brief peace of mind. So, am I overreacting? Am I the asshole? I was was raised by parents who believe religiously and just culturally in rigid gender roles. Dad should work, mom should stay home and raise the kids. I'm the only girl and I have 3 brothers. Because of their expectation, I would just get married and stay home and raise kids. They never valued my education. They never valued my educational achievements or emphasized things beyond domestic skill. I'm the second youngest, and by the time I was in high school, my 2 older brothers had gone to the college of their choice, with my parents covering full tuition, books, and off-campus apartment and other living expenses. They eventually did the same for my younger brother, and I was told I wasn't allowed to apply for college.
Am I the asshole for having my wedding ceremony in sign language? I'm 24 female, deaf, and growing up my parents got me bilateral cochlear implants and forced me into mainstream school. Never taught me sign language and never immersed me into my culture as a deaf person. They were actually pretty against me using ASL at all. Well, I took ASL in high school against my parents' wishes and then got into a deaf university. Although I couldn't sign fluently when I started, I finally felt accepted and understood. The deaf community was nothing but welcoming. I became fluent in ASL, and after a few months, I stopped wearing my processors completely as there was no need for them anymore. I honestly didn't realize how alone I had felt until I didn't feel that way anymore. I met my fiancé at college. He is from a very large family of deaf people, and everyone is fluent in sign. We've been together 4 years now. He proposed last May. We've been planning the wedding and have decided to have it fully in ASL.
This is the story of my worst bar customer ever. I just met another bartender on a Thursday night, and we were pretty much waiting on this last table to leave. It was a group of guys with like 3 girls. The whole night, this one guy was flexing that he was going to put everything on his tab, and he was going to pay for everything so the girls could drink whatever they wanted. Of course, that meant I put everything on his tab. The girls left and went to the next bar, so it was time to close him out. When I brought him his tab without even looking at it, he demanded for my phone number before he would pay for it. I told him I wasn't going to give him my phone number and he needed to pay regardless. I brought his tab over a second time and his friends encouraged him to pay it so they could leave. That's when he threw a couple of crunched up dollar bills at me on the floor. I told him I wasn't going to pick it up. Then he called me a bitch and tried to grab me. The other bartender I was working with stepped in at that point and told him he needed to pay and leave. This guy swung a punch at my coworker but missed. That's when we had to call public security, and you won't believe what the guy...
I literally want to cry. So if you didn't know, I have a sister, and her name's Ashley. And we both have boyfriends. And every night we both fall asleep on the phone with our boyfriends. So one day we're all hanging out and we're like just talking. And my sister's boyfriend looks at me and he's like, "You need to stop going into your sister's room in the middle of the night." And I look at him and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't have a reason to go into her room. Like, I don't go into her room, especially in the middle of the night." Then my boyfriend hops in the conversation and he's like, No. He's like, "No, I hear Ashley go into Kayla's room every night and stare at her." So me and my sister both look at each other and we're like, "We don't go into each other's rooms, do we?" And we agreed that we do not. And they said this has been going on for months. So for months, somebody or something has been going into me and my sister's room for about 15 minutes every night and watching us sleep. But it only...
I have a 9-year-old daughter who I named after my late grandmother, Annabelle, and I'm currently pregnant. If I'm having a girl, I want to name her after my other grandmother, Rose. My sister got pregnant about 5 months before me and says she wants to name her baby Rose. I said our kids can share the name, but she says I already have Annabelle and could have named her Annabelle Rose, but passed up on the chance. So now I can't have Rose. I told her I'll look for something else, but reserve the right to use Rose if I want to. Then I fell in love with the name Rosalie. It honors my late grandmother, my boyfriend loves it, and it won't piss off my sister. A couple of weeks later, my sister gives birth and announces her daughter's name is Rosalie. I am beyond upset because now she's trying to snatch both names from me. My mom calls me to say she knew my sister was planning to do this and hopes I'm not upset because this means I can take the original name I wanted, which was Rose. But I told my mom I'm sticking with Rosalie. She said it's impractical because both Rosalies will have the same surname. My sister is a single mom and my boyfriend will be taking my last name. My sister then calls me to say I'm an inconsiderate prick and that I'm being petty. She can name her kid whatever she wants and I can't monopolize the name. I said true, so by that same logic, I can use Rosalie.